Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world and when you watch this. I'm Shante Jovan Taylor, neuroscientist and success strategist, founder of the Optimine Institute. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to influence minds like a Taylor, me, and a Swift. You see what I did there? Because the truth of the matter is, people, we are always influencing minds, no matter what, whether you know it consciously or not. Every time we pick up a cup of coffee and someone is looking at it at us, picking up a cup of coffee and drinking it, your neurons, your mirror neurons are lighting up as if you are drinking a cup of coffee, okay? And savoring it. So grab a cup of Joe or whatever you like to drink. And I am going to talk about my Neuro-Framework for teaching neuroscience optimally so that you can empower your strengths, your expertise, and make powerful transformational changes in those that you influence. You're influencing their minds. Okay. So let me know in the chat box if you have any questions or insights that come in the moment. I love insights, y'all, and engagement. So we're going to get started. If you're in Austin, by the way, make sure you grab a copy of Austin Women Magazine. It's the theme of the magazine is about the fashion industry, women in the fashion industry, and it's featuring Nina Means. She is the director of the incubator at the college for the fashion incubator there. And also you can read my, of course, article on the fashion women in the fashion industry. Of course, I'm talking about it from a neuroscience perspective, mindset perspective. Fashion, a revolutionary catalyst for women. So it's deep, y'all. You gotta read it. Okay, you can also read it online. So fashion has been a big transformational piece of how we evolved over time, but it also evolved our mindset, how we think about what we wear and how we can use fashion to influence minds as well. So everything that we do in this human experience, we are impacting minds. And whether you like or love Taylor Swift, she's impacting minds. Okay, if they show her and she's putting herself out there, somebody's going to have a thought or opinion or something, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But I want you to be able to do that more powerfully in your own work, in your own expertise, which is why I am running this neuroscience neuro coaching 8-week certification program. Once again, I've been doing it for the last almost 10 years. But now, we're taking it a step further. So what is my framework for people being able to learn hey Valerie, being able to learn neuroscience so that it actually gets integrated into your neural pathways and you can actually use it seamlessly in your work as you are influencing minds. Okay, we are always influencing minds because we have mirror neurons. So whatever we say, whatever we don't say, our body language, people are always reading us and their brain is acting as if. I did a whole live stream on mirror neurons. I'll maybe put that in a link later. Anywho, so how do I teach students as a neuroscientist, as a coach myself, as someone who has experienced major realms within this human experience? I've been in every major sector doing research or doing clinical work. So I'm talking about the health realm. I'm talking about education. I was a college professor. I was a high school professor. Pharma, clinical trials, you name it, clinical dementia, assessing patients. But now I use neuroscience to empower people, everyday people, about how they can be phenomenal coaches and leaders and trainers, so that we can get to our collective humanity, number one, but also make sure that we are progressing in this human experience mentally, so that we can ensure that whatever we continue to create in this modern world, it's pro humanity, it's pro environment. Okay, so we need more leaders and coaches who are thinking at the level of the brain and how they use their brain intentionally and impact other people's brains intentionally for the good. That is what is needed right now, where we are in time and space. So my mission and the mission of the Optimind Institute is to empower 1 billion minds to understand the brain and use it intentionally to take humanity to the next level of this human experience. In order to do that, we need to be teaching about the brain. Okay, your clients want to know about the brain. Your employees want to know that you understand and get their brains. And so you are able to make decisions with their brain in mind. That's what a powerful leader can do. That's what a powerful coach can do. That's what a powerful trainer can do. Okay, so I'm calling out to people who are ready to go to the next level of their expertise, of their strengths, to learn this knowledge. Okay, so it's not for everybody. It's for a certain mindset, which is part of my framework. So what is the Neuro-Framework that will allow you to learn neuroscience optimally in this 8-week program? So the first part of going through this learning journey with me, this brain journey with me, is to understand how your adult brain learns. We're not getting into any neuroscience, people, until you learn how your adult brain learns, because it's important to understand that your brain, the neural architecture of your brain, is different than when you were a teenager or even in your 20s. We have half of the connections that we had in our 20s and our teens when we reach our later 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. That's not a bad thing. It's just how Mother Nature wired us. It's like when we're first born, we have all these excess synapses, right? And then going through the journey of life, some of those synapses stay and some of them go. That continues throughout life, people. Okay, so by the time we are in our later 30s, 40s, and 50s, we have to shift the way we take in information and learn, or we will get overwhelmed. Y'all, you don't have dementia, okay, in your late 30s. It's very rare for that to be a thing, okay? What is happening in your brain is that your brain is more intentional, because the brain uses up a lot of energy. It wants to conserve its energy to only take in information that's going to add value to your strongest neural networks. What are your strongest neural networks made of? They're made up of your strengths. They're made up of your expertise. They're made up of your experiences. They're made up of that core knowledge you learned and stuck with over time in your youth, in your 20s. Okay? And so because it has half of the connections, it has used the energy to make sure you have those strong neural pathways to make you who you are in your later 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So it's not that you can't learn. It's not that you can't remember. It is that your brain is like, yeah, it's always assessing. I mean, you literally have an error detection system in your prefrontal cortex that's like, hey, is this information relevant? Is this what we want to use our time and attention and mental resources on are glucose. And then your brain makes a decision whether it wants to check out, halfway learn, be overwhelmed. So in the program, before we get into any neuroscience, you have to learn how your adult learning brain operates. The reason why we have many more connections in our teens and in our early 20s is because we're trying to learn all the things as fast as we can so we can survive and thrive. Okay, that's just how the brain works. So that's why we have more connections, and we felt like we could do anything. We could learn anything. We could do 50 billion things, be a part of all these social things, go to sleep late, wake up early, have bounce back when we drink too much. Okay, our brain cells were very resilient. That's a whole nother conversation. How to make your brain more resilient as an adult. Anywho, hi mom. My mother's here, y'all. Hi, mother dear. I would not be here if it wasn't for her. Greatest fan, my number one fan. All right, so that's number one. How your adult learning brain works is important. And I don't see, not that I know every program on the planet, but I don't think people are teaching about the adult learning brain, because you literally have to have the awareness to make sure that people coming into your learning program understand about their adult learning brain. So a lot of people don't have that awareness to teach people how to teach or how to learn, how to optimize their learning brain. So everything that I create for the program is with the adult learning brain in mind. Okay, so that's part of the framework. The next part of the framework is understanding how the brain optimizes learning with a certain way to take notes. So there's a training on how to mind map, because it's a reflection of how our neurons are connected. And I know we were taught to take notes line by line, right? I forgot what the notes are called when you learn them. You got to fold the paper, at the corner, and then take your notes. This is what we learned in high school, right? However, before I even started learning about the brain at UCLA, I started intuitively taking notes like a mind map, connecting information. Because if you think about a two-sided triangle, right, your brain automatically makes the connection that, oh, those two sides, that would make a triangle. That's kind of how our brain works too, is that we make connections to other neurons. We have 100 billion neurons, people, about, and 90 million miles of wiring up there, and they're all making connections like a whole network. Okay, and so we make leaps and jump to conclusions, and that is how the brain learns. So you don't have to write down every single word, because you're giving your brain the opportunity to make the leap. But also within that leap, your brain is able to make new connections about the information. So if you're always just writing down every word that someone is saying, you're really just being a parrot. But when you mind map, you're allowing your brain to make connections, and in between those connections, you have the brain has the opportunity to make newer connections based on your expertise, your knowledge, your wisdom, okay, to that information, to that new information. So I don't want you to be a parrot of this knowledge. I want you to understand this knowledge in a way that empowers your mind and goes deeper for your expertise, for your strengths, for your niche. That is why it's important, before we even touch the neuroscience training, we teach you to take notes. Okay, so you have to come with a curious mind. You have to come with a curious brain. You have to come with an open-minded brain on this journey of the neuro coaching certification program. Okay, so the next part of the Neuro-Framework to optimize how to learn neuroscience is that you need to know, why are you even learning neuroscience? Okay, is it just something, oh, I'm just kind of interested in it? So before we even jump once again into the core training of the 8-week neuroscience program, I want you to identify why you are willing to use your time, energy, and finances to learn about the brain at a deeper level. And what do you need from neuroscience? What do your clients need for neuroscience, for your particular niche? Because there's a lot of information, concepts, and strategies in the program, and it can be overwhelming. But if you think ahead of time, what do I really need from neuroscience? You won't get caught up into thinking you need to know everything that's in the program. Okay? We want you to know, we want you to be exposed, because it is a journey. But when you identify your neuro needs, that's what I call them, your neuro needs for yourself and your clients, when you get to certain topics and strategies, you can delve into it more. Your brain's GPS system will pay attention to that particular topic a little bit more and start making connections. Okay. And that's important to make sure you don't get overwhelmed. All right. If you're just joining, I'm talking about the framework, the neuro-framework I use in order to ensure that the students who join the 8-week neuro coaching and neuro leadership certification program thrive and actually learn neuroscience to infuse into their coaching, training, and leadership strategies so that they can go in the world and make powerful transformations with the minds that they influence and impact while changing the world at the same time. Okay. Now, anybody can pick up a neuroscience textbook. By all means, go buy a $200 textbook and read all the things. But I'm going to tell you, just like, we need professors, we need teachers to give us context around things. So you can read all the books, but if you're not learning it in a systematic way, which is the next part of the neuro-framework, people, you need to learn it in a systematic way so that you can put things into context instead of having bits of information, neuroscience information jumbled all around in your brain. So if you don't have it organized in your brain, if you don't have context around the concepts, the strategies, if you don't have a chance to ask questions, let's say you read a book on neuroscience, okay, maybe you get a $20 book or something, I don't know, you don't have in the moment the opportunity to ask questions around a concept. So now it's just you, depending on you, to make sense of it. So it's important to still have guides and teachers and professors, because they can give you context. They can give you real-time stories, what's happening in current events and why it's relevant to whatever you read about that neuroscience concept or strategy. That's very important for the adult learning brain, people. Okay. And so we're not here to learn just the basics when we are learning in our adult years. We are learning to add information to our current neural networks, our strongest neural networks, our expertise, our strengths, so that we can use the knowledge in a more effective way. So we could be more effective with our expertise, with our training, with our leadership, with our coaching. Okay. The days of learning basic stuff are over. That was in our formative years, right? That's in elementary school and high school, in our young adult years. When you learn neuroscience, it should not be just a bunch of facts. It should be, how do I integrate this knowledge so that I can use it powerfully to impact and influence minds? Okay. So learn it systematically. Now, let me give you an example of neural needs. The reason why you have to know why you're even learning it is because you're more likely to stick to it, and you're more likely not to get overwhelmed. But we actually have a literal GPS system, y'all, in our brains, discovered by the neuroscientists married couple, the Mosleys. They actually got a Nobel Science Prize for discovering an actual GPS system in our brains. Okay, and this GPS system, if it has direction, if it has a goal, the more you feed that GPS system in your brain, the faster you will get to your goal. Okay. So this is actually a thing in the brain. That's why I want you to identify your neuroscience needs and not just be another thing, not just be another program, not just be, let me add this to my degree of certificates and certifications and degrees. That's not what this program is about, even though you do get a certification and it is ICF accredited. Okay. But I want you to get to your goals faster and help your clients get to their goals faster. So that means you need to be able to give instructions to your brain's GPS system and also have a goal of why you're using this knowledge. Okay. And when you are able to do that, then you're able to get your clients to do the same. Because what are we even coaching for? If it's not to get our clients to the fastest, most transformational, goal. What are we leaders for if we're not impacting minds in the most powerful way? So understanding the GPS system in our brains will help us to not only navigate our own brains, but help our clients, help those we lead, help those we train to navigate their own GPS system to get to their next level, whatever that may be. Okay. So now let's get into now you can do the neuroscience training once you do all that pre-training work. Okay. And that is, you systematically will go through training, neuroscience based training that takes you through every element of the human experience. So the way the trainings are set up, it's not about, oh, let's just learn neuroplasticity, right? Let's just learn unconscious bias. No, that's not how it's set up. Okay. It has to make sense because we're dealing with human lives, and they're not in silos. Their lives are not in silos. Their lives are not as a vacuum. People are whether you're a business coach, a health coach, a leadership coach, an executive coach, executive leader in management, HR, wherever you are dealing with human beings with real lives. And so it's important that any program that's teaching you how to be a better leader, a better coach, a better trainer, the program needs to be comprehensive. It needs to span and mirror what real human beings go through. So just learning about neuroplasticity is not enough. You need to learn about, okay, first of all, the basics of the brain anatomy, but not everything about the brain, not at the level I had to learn it as a Bruin at UCLA, every part of the neuron and the physics of the neuron. And I mean, that is not necessary. Okay. So I train on the coachable regions of the brain so you can have more targeted impact on your client processes, on your leadership processes, on your coaching processes, okay? Not only that, we need to understand the importance of the emotional brain. We can't just do away with emotions, people. We are emotional creatures. Your clients are emotional beings. Your employees have emotions. You can't will it away. You can't wish it away. The best thing to do is understand emotions. So we spent a whole week just on understanding the brain's emotions and how to not just understand them, how to regulate them, but not just regulate them, how to use your brain's emotions as a superpower. But you can't use your emotional brain as a superpower if you don't understand your emotional brain. If you don't want to feel your emotions, if you want to keep suppressing your emotions, if you want to pretend like your clients don't have emotions, like they don't go through things, that they shouldn't feel things because it makes you uncomfortable because they're feeling things. Okay? You're doing a disservice to your employees and your clients if you do those things. Okay? Why not lean into them? Lean into the emotions. And it might get uncomfortable for you to learn more about emotions. So maybe some things will come up for you, which is also okay. So a lot of our students and graduates, over 300, they say, hey, I changed first. I had to apply this stuff to me first. And then once they went through that metamorphosis, guess what? They emerge a more impactful leader, a more impactful coach. So we have to go in. We got to go into the brain's emotions, y'all. Okay. Next, we have to learn, okay, how do we apply neuroscience to everyday life? So we have a whole training on the neuroscience of the personal life. So all those activities that your clients go through outside of your coaching sessions, outside of work, you know, they're doing real human things that impacts their health, their brains, their relationships. So we need to understand when they come to us, or maybe when we are creating courses or programs or a presentation, or we're about to have, you know, one-on-one with, you know, one of our employees or something, feedback, we need to go in with the brain in mind and thinking of them as humans with real lives. Okay. And so it's important to know how the brain impacts people's real lives, but also how everyday human activities impact the brain. Okay. The next training is all about the neuroscience of our professional lives. So in that training, that's where we're talking about how to make sure we are intentionally positively impacting other people's brains, being considerate, you know, understand when their threat brain is triggered and how to respond, or how to prevent their threat brain, or understanding the neuroscience of change, understanding that, hey, change will naturally flare up, activate the threat brain. Okay. So you can be thinking about this before you present the change so that you can be more strategic on how you present the change. Okay. So there are certain strategies you can use to ensure or to minimize their threat brains flaring up, so that they're more likely to lean into the change, try the change, and be on board with the change, or the changes. Because if you don't have their brains on board, if their threat brain is activated, people, they're not changing. They're going to have resentment. They're not going to learn accurately. And so it's going to be a whole mess. Okay. So we have to understand how the professional brain works, so that you as a coach, if you're an executive coach, you can help to guide them on their thinking through their professional brain and how they impact others, and how what they need to do for their own brains to show up more powerfully at work, to not feel lonely, because sometimes it's lonely at the top, right? The higher leaders go, there's research for that. The more isolated they become, and that affects their loneliness part of the brain. Their social networks are now not getting activated enough, and then there's a whole dynamic around that. So we have to address the professional brain. This is what I'm saying, y'all. If you're going to take a program that's trying to get you to the next level of your expertise, of your coaching, of your leadership, it has to be a 360-degree program that accounts for the real spectrum of a human life, not just a one-off concept or strategy about neuroscience. Neuroplasticity. I mean, if I hear that one more time, look, not that it's not important, y'all. Obviously, I think it's important. But once again, you got to have context, people. Context. All right. Someone said they're using it for their teens. Yes. If you're a parent, woo, you better know some neuroscience at this juncture. If you are a parenting coach, if you're a teen coach, and you don't have neuroscience in your repertoire, or you feel like, oh, I read a book, now I know it, you are not optimizing your coaching experience with your with the parents or the teens. Okay, it has to be comprehensive. It has to have context. You have to have access also to the person who is taking you on the journey of the brain. When you just pick up a book or you just take a one-off class, you don't have continuous access that will allow you to share your insights, to ask questions around certain concepts and strategies. That's the beauty of college too. It's like you might have an insight or a question in the moment, and then that professor can take the time to address your question, to add on to your insights, and other people can engage. And that's really the optimal way for the adult learning brain people. Going back to the Neuro-Framework from the beginning, we teach you about your adult learning brain. We learn best in our later 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s plus, when we are in a group setting and can talk about new information as it relates to our own experiences, our own wisdom, and sharing. So that's another part of the framework, is community is very important. You need access to community, and you still need continuous access to the person guiding you on the journey for that learning, whatever that learning is. This is how to choose a program too, y'all. This is not just my program. So you're welcome, every other program out there. All right. So in the actual program, we're talking about the coaching regions of the brain. We're talking about your emotional brain. We're talking about your brain as it relates to everyday life, personal life, because your employees and your clients are actually humans with real lives. Okay, we're talking about the professional brain. Okay, that's important too. And then we talk about your business brain. So why is that important? Because business is all about decision making. A lot of times it's about how we think through resources, how we think about how we invest our money or spend our money. A lot of that is subconscious, by the way. Okay. So we have to discuss your business brain. Maybe you're a business coach, and maybe when you get on your calls with your clients, they're having some issues with following through on some of your business strategies, right? And the first thing, your first instinct is to say, to, they don't want it enough or whatever, right? You want to take the blame. It's not you, it's them. But maybe it's their brain, right? Rejection is a real thing. Fear is a real thing. Imposter syndrome is a real thing. And if we're not helping them to navigate those concepts that are affecting their decision-making skills, then they are not going to be successful. And that is why you're in the business, hopefully, ethically. It's very important that we don't just look at our clients as dollar signs people, right? Or blame them for their shortcomings, because we have to deal with the obstacles that will come up for them as they are trying to make decisions regarding their businesses or their finances in their personal lives. We can't just ignore it and wish it away, people. Okay? And at the end of the day, if you do end up not helping them to navigate their brain and their obstacles, and you just want to blame them for not wanting it enough, it will do something to your own spirit, because their success is your success. That's what a coach is about. We are there for people to go to the next level, to thrive. So if we don't get them to those levels, you think that's going to make you feel good? Maybe in the short term, after the blame, it may make you feel good, but subconsciously, it's going to be a L for you. It's going to become toxic when you aren't able to take yourself out of ego and say, you know what, let's address this in another way. Let me stop blaming them and tell them just to get over it. You don't understand how many coaches I've heard tell people they just need to get over their fear. They just need to get over their, rejections. I'm like, oh my gosh. This is why they're, entrepreneurs twice as likely to have PTSD, 6 times as likely to get depression if they don't even get me started on that. Okay, it's real things. So we deal with the business brain, and then the training. This is why it's a systematic training. Okay, y'all, it's comprehensive. We're dealing with every part of a person's life in the program. We then go into the neuroscience of creativity and innovation. That's the next level of us. That involves insights. That involves intuition. That involves emotions. Remember, I don't know when you join this live. Hi, everyone. When we can get to that level where we're optimizing our creative brain and insights, that's next level. But you must know how to regulate your emotions and understand how to use them as your superpowers. That's why we spend a whole week just on the emotional brain at the beginning, because it all starts coming together later on. Okay. And the next part of the training is neuroscience of relationships, because our clients, our employees, those we train, they're in relationships. They're in workplace relationships. Any kind of relationship, the brain is changing. There's neurochemicals involved before we fall in love, when we fall in love, after we've been married. There's like this concoction of chemicals going, at different levels all the time, depending on where we are in our relationship state of mind. And so you can help your clients navigate their relationships more powerfully when they understand what's going on in their brain with relationships. I mean, just a simple act of looking a person in the eyeballs while they are talking increases oxytocin in the brain, the neurochemical of bonding, of trust. Okay, so just knowing that as a coach, as a relationship coach, as a leader, understanding that if I give a certain amount of attention to my employee who's talking to me, then I know I'm building what? Trust via neurochemicals. This is not something you have to literally say to your employee, but you know it as a brain-based leader. You can understand and think ahead and be intentional about your actions and how you engage and interact with people. So we go through a whole training on just the neuroscience of relationships, all kinds of relationships. And when I say we, I'm also including Dr. Rael Sims. He is a neuropsychologist and he's our relationship scientist and body language expert. And he's a fun guy. Oh, we're so not boring, y'all. We're kind of quirky. All right. And then the grand finale, y'all. The neuroscience of spirituality. Woo. Now, this module came later in the years. Remember, I've been teaching this training since 2014, 15. And so we modify it, we advance it, because, neuroscience research is coming out like a fire hose. So someone has to keep up with the research. Okay. But we read the complex and then we pull out what's relevant for current times or what we feel like our students and graduates will need. And then we put it in the program, or we'll do a deeper dive live training or something like that. So that's how you always have access to our brains. It's like, this is a program where we want you to stay active. This is not a one-off program. It's literally a journey with us. But the neuroscience of spirituality came later because it's a relatively new field, neurotheology, where we are able to see what goes on in the brain when we do or not do spiritual practices, ancient spiritual practices. Now, I grew up in the church. My grandmother is a pastor to this day. She's 93 years old. Okay. So the first time I even learned about the mind was through reading scripture. As a man thinketh, be ye renewed in the spirit of your mind, right? So the seeds were planted. So I know I was born to understand the brain, but not just that, because there's a lot to know about the brain, okay? My gift is not just understanding the brain and making connections to everyday human life. It is being able to explain it to just about any demographic of people in a way that's going to resonate with them, and so that they can apply it and live and thrive in this human experience and help others to do the same. So I am tooting my own horn, and everybody has strengths, and we want you to bring your strengths. Neuroscience is not supposed to replace your knowledge. It is designed, how we design it, to amplify your knowledge. Okay, amplify your skills, amplify your frequency of insights, so you can keep growing and taking whatever you're doing to the next level. So when you are in that coaching space with someone, you're able to ask the questions in the moment, have the insights in the moment, guide them in the moment, because you understand what's happening in the brain and where you need to go in the brain, or where you need to take them in their brain, or where you need to take them out of their brain region. That's the power of understanding neuroscience in an applicable way, and not in a, piecemeal way. Like you hear one podcast over here and you subscribe to some neuro newsletter over here, and everything just random in your brain. The brain likes to be organized, okay? And the reason why the brain likes to be organized is so it can actually use the information when you need it. Be able to recall the knowledge when it will be most impactful and useful, okay? So it's not doing you any service to randomly learn neuroscience all over the place. Hey, I'm just the messenger. You can do that. And just note that that's not the optimal way to use it in a powerful and effective way. All right. So last thing I'm going to say is about my Neuro-Framework for teaching neuroscience to coaches, leaders, and trainers is that you really just, you have to have the mindset to learn neuroscience at this level. There's going to be people who just want to know whatever that pops into their feed, you know, with no real system of learning it. Your mindset has to be around, I don't even know exactly what this knowledge is going to do for me, but I know I need to know it. It's a knowing to learn neuroscience at this level. You have to have the mindset that you're going to be committed to learn it, that you're going to be open-minded, that you're going to be curious, that you're going to finish. And we do have accountability success coaches to help. And you will get nudges from me to keep it going. Okay. You have to also have the mindset that this knowledge is the next level of our human experience. This knowledge is important because we are impacting minds. We are influencing minds. Hence the title of this live stream, Influence Like a Taylor and a Swift. Okay. So if you want to influence minds more powerfully, if you're ready to go to the next level of your expertise, of your strengths, if you're ready to learn and dedicate yourself at the level of the brain and learning the way we train on it, a 360-degree human experience, then we are enrolling for the next cohort. It's an 8-week neuro coach and neuro leadership ICF accredited training. Now, why was it important for me to get the program accredited? It's like any other. So I come from the laboratory, of course, right? My research was on brain injuries and dementia, Alzheimer's, okay? And in order to run research, you have to read research papers, okay? You have to do background work and what are people already doing? And those research papers are what? Peer reviewed. Peer reviewed, okay? So it was important to get the program peer reviewed, hence the ICF accreditation. Now, everybody doesn't need the ICF accreditation, ICF International Coaching Federation, okay? Not everybody needs the continuing education credits or core credits they need, because you get both from going through this program. Because there's so many people from all walks of life and professions that come into the program, not just coaches. So there's people who are, you know, vice presidents of companies. There's trainers, there's educators, there's speakers, there's therapists, there's social workers. I mean, it's all over. And each of those entities, like human resource managers, each of those entities have their own like accreditation, you know, entity. So I'm not going through every accreditation entity to get this program accredited. Okay, that's not going to happen. But it was important for me to have a set of eyes on this program, peer review, so that you know, people can be ensured that this is a program that has been vetted. Okay, that is important, and that should be the standard for any program, to be open-minded and open to feedback and, critiques. Okay, that's called critical thinking. And emotional intelligence. All of that stuff is very important as we move through this human experience. So I will put the link in these comment boxes and these comment streets, and come join us. We are starting actually tomorrow, okay? But I am extending the enrollment period to the end of the week. The end of the week, if you're not enrolled by then, you'll be too far behind the group, because you need to do some prep work. And then the next week, tomorrow, is Neuroscience 101 training. And you have the whole week to, go through that module. And then on Thursdays, we hop on live calls. And that's where I am doing a deeper dive into that week's topic and training, and then also answering questions. Every subsequent week, we do more of that, going into a deeper dive of the topic, answering questions, but we also do coaching labs so that you can practice the knowledge, practice the terminology in a way that resonates with your niche, and how you communicate, and how your clients will best receive understanding neuroscience. Okay, that's very important, to be able to break down neuroscience in a way that's relevant and that resonates with your clients. Okay, it's not going to help them if you just want to sound all professorial, right, and use all these technical scientific terms. Going to go over their head. It's not helping them. So one of the ways that we teach in this program is to talk about the brain in various ways. Remember, we're a whole spectrum of this human experience. So people need things said in certain ways. And so that's why I also say that neuroscience, using it in coaching and education and leadership, it's an art. Yes, it's a science, obviously, but it's also an art form on how you're able to communicate it, which I think is really lost in some of these neuroscience internet streets where people are talking all up here and they're not really reaching people where they need to be met, at the level of their knowledge. And so that has been very important to me over time, to learn how to communicate that. I mean, if you go to my YouTube channel, I still have one of the first trainings I did, and it was like I was boring myself to sleep. Anyways, 10 years later, I have found my groove, and I want you to find your groove, find your voice on how to use neuroscience. I don't want you to be a parrot. I don't want you to talk like me. I want you to think like a neuroscientist, but be the coach and leader that you are. Okay. And so once again, we are enrolling for the next cohort of the Neuro Coach and Neuro Leadership 8-week certification course, program, journey. Really, it's not another program, it's a journey. We expect you to be with us for life. We expect you not to stay our students, but to become our colleagues, our collaborators. So our students have had so many opportunities once they're able to infuse this knowledge into their work: speaking opportunities, coaching opportunities, training opportunities. One of our coaching graduates, I think it was 2017 when she took the program. This year, she became a faculty member at Johns Hopkins University, teaching the neuroscience of mindfulness and meditation. Okay, I mean, and she had to convince them that they needed more neuroscience in their social work program. Okay, but she had the confidence to do that. We have graduates who have done trainings for women leaders at NASA and Porsche. And it's people are ready for a deeper level of engagement, people. Then that is the understanding the brain, but understanding it in a way that resonates with them. Okay. Anybody can teach about emotional intelligence. Not everybody can think about or train on the neuroscience of emotional intelligence. You know, we need to start giving people a different way of thinking about this human experience that will transform them. Okay, that's important right now in this time and space. You want to talk about unconscious biases? We need to talk about it from the level of the brain. You want to talk about, you know, kids 2 years, 3 years back in education because of, you know, the conditions of their schools, or, you know, teachers leaving, or social media, whatever you're blaming. We need to start understanding how the brain learns and how to teach at different levels of the brain to make up for those gaps in education. We need to learn to harness our empathy and our compassion. People, where are we learning that? Where does that go on? It is our nervous system. It is our brain. It is our heart. It's all connected. The brain is the control center that communicates with our heart, with our hormones. All of those encompass this human experience. So we really need to be understanding the brain at the level of the human experience. I believe, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be okay with that. I believe neuroscience is going to change the world. And I've been called Pollyannish all my life. I'm a Gen Xer, so Pollyanna was, you know, she was my jam. But any type of organization I work for, people thought I was too passionate. You're too passionate, Shantae. You're too optimistic, Shantae. Yeah, optimism is actually good for the brain. Okay. And so as I evolved my own learning and understanding about the brain, the neural wisdom of the brain, I believe that's the next phase of this human collective evolution. That is what's going to save us from our primitive caveman thinking, cavewoman thinking, our primitive ways, those thousands of year old problems that should have been resolved by now. Okay. The jealousy, the hate, the greed, all of those things that are keeping us, you know, in this silo of primitive thinking and being. Those gaps can be closed by understanding this and being more intentional about how we use the brain and how we impact other people's brains. If you want to see my TEDx talk on Change the Brain, Change the World from 2019, I talk more about how important it is for us to realize, be aware that we're impacting brains all the time. I'm impacting your brain right now. The person you speak to or don't speak to or get mad at the grocery store, you impacted their brain. So once you're aware of this, now you can make the decision, how do I want to show up in the world? How do I want to impact other people's lives via their brains? And that's what we got to get back to or evolve to is being more intentional in this human experience. Okay? That is my mission for you. That is my mission for 1 billion minds. And I don't know if I'll ever reach 1 billion minds. That's not for me to assess. I just know I'm walking in my purpose and my knowledge, my strengths, and I am empowering as many minds as I can. And I know that you will empower as many minds as you can, because your influential circles will be different than mine. That's how we get to 1 billion and beyond. Okay? So if you're ready to go on this journey, this neuroscience journey, click on the link that I will be putting in the comments shortly. And if you want to hop on a call, you go to that link. There is a button where we can actually have a little chat if you want to learn more about the brain. Y'all, I'm like this all the time, okay? Yeah, I am passionate. I am quirky. I'm all the things. I'm the full expression of myself, and I love talking about not just the brain. I love talking about the impact of the brain and how it connects to everything. I'm a connector, so that's one of my strengths. I don't know if you all do the strengths test, but definitely a connector. Okay. So I look forward to learning more about your strengths and being on this journey with you. All right. Until next time, when you better your brain, better your mind, you better your impact in the world. Take care, everyone.